Hello, beautiful creative soul, and welcome back to Chakra Care for the Creative Soul. And on today's episode, we have the lovely Cynthia Roemer, Divine Feminine Christed mentor and teacher, here with us in the studio today. And I'm so happy and grateful that you're here today with us, Cynthia. It's an honor and a pleasure, to have you here and to have you share your wisdom and your rich life experience and just you're going to spark so much in all of us. I can feel it already. And yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Pollyanna. I feel so much love right now. Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Well, and we are going to be talking today about a really important topic, and I know it's one that's near and dear to your heart, and it's all about and near and dear to so many people's hearts these days in these shifting times where so much seems to be coming in to our experience, and how we kind of dance with that or don't dance with that or where it takes us is all about really getting to the heart of this deeper revelation inside of all of us. In the sort of 3D realms, we talk about, stress management and, and, and the invitation of the ascended realms as we're on our inner awakening journey is to begin to reframe this notion and concept of stress and invite that experience and that reframe on stress so that we can uncover what's actually underneath it. And it's actually a beautiful gift, just waiting to come online. So today's topic is, that's why it's all about uncovering the hidden source of stress, and we're going to be looking at it today from an ascended perspective, so that when you're experiencing, if you have been experiencing moments that are trying to sort of the emotional Velcro that's been trying to pull you back down into the mosh pit of life, we're here today, and the beautiful Cynthia is here today to talk about this topic. And so I'm just going to peek at my notes here because I've got so many great questions to ask you today, Cynthia.
Amazing.
So, the very first one is, what sparked your own inner awakening journey? What brought you to this point where you're here with us now?
How long do we have? We'll
Sounds
do
like
the
so many
short,
people's journeys.
right? Exactly. The short and condensed version. So my journey started out as a young little girl. I was very open. I was able to see beyond the veil of three-dimensional reality. And so I was that little girl who grew up, seeing ghosts and all kinds of other spirits and entities. And that really was a time in my life where I had a lot of fear come in around that because I didn't understand it. I grew up in a family that didn't understand it. And so it's been a huge part of my journey is to really, understand that it's actually nothing to be afraid of. And so I found myself throughout my life, I would go through these almost like um, peak awakening cycles where I would shut down my inner vision. And then it's like my soul was like, we're opening it back up for you. And so I would have these moments. And for me, I would say by the time I was in my early 20s, um, I sort of hit like a peak of fear and then kind of really cracked open and started having a lot of challenges in my life, specifically in relationships. And then back, moving into my 40s was really where early 40s, I would say, is where I started to seek spiritually. And I started seeking mentors and just the deeper understanding of what it really meant to be a spiritual woman. And I would say in my probably in my mid 40s is where I feel like I finally started to get it. Yeah, so it was many years of like almost like the push and pull between I would say for me the greatest piece of my journey has been moving through fear.
Mm,
Yeah,
I can feel
moving
that.
through fear. Yeah,
There's so many people. I think
yeah,
so many people can identify with what you just shared there. And I'm just curious, when did your self-care practice start to begin to feel more sacred? Because I know for a lot of people, when they're sort of on this inner awakening journey, like you have been sharing with us, all the different,
Yeah.
sort of shifts and changes along the way from when you were a child and until now, that, conventional self-care, I know we all move through that sort of phase of conventional self-care, and it's valuable, it has its place. And now, as a divine feminine, sorry, Christed mentor and teacher, you acknowledge the divine. So when did things start to become sacred? I'm really curious to know that.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would say when I was in my early 40s, I had my whole life laid out in front of me. I thought I had everything that I was calling into my life, to be happy. And then shortly after that started to fall apart, I left a relationship. Then my mom got sick. And I would say that was a huge catalyst for me moving into the sacred realm and really peeling away the blueprint that I was attached to that kept me in a lot of pain and suffering.
Mhm.
And so that journey, I would say, over the last 7 years of my life, I've been coming more and more into the sacred union between understanding the realm of spirit and light and working through my own challenges with my divine feminine and my divine masculine. And so I spend a lot of time now really being in that realm, and that has absolutely changed my life in the most profound ways, where it's allowed me to unplug from our, external reality of perception of fear, and to really start giving back to myself and choosing for myself and really working with free will and just allowing that integration to happen. And I know we want it all now. Like we want everything to happen quickly, and there really is a timing. And like when I think of integration, we were talking about this before we got online.
Mhm.
Like really truly, we're never really done. Like there's so much for us to tap into in this, cosmic infinite universe, and we're just scratching the surface. And so for me, I would say, I've moved into sort of my wise woman years where all of that integration is starting to happen for me, and that absolutely has shifted my, dominating in my masculine energy, where I'm like, oh, I got to push myself, and it has to be this way. I have to go do this, to more of the feminine, where it's like, oh, actually, I don't have the energy for that right now. So I'm going to give back to myself. I'm going to tune up with my spirit. And so that's been a big shift for me.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing all of that. There's such wisdom in that too, about the power of our conscious choice, right? To really decide, if there's that proverbial, poke from the universe, right? When things aren't working. And I think the very first choice for a lot of people is, are we willing to do the inner work? Are we willing to take a look? And if we're willing to take a look, that is the first step of moving through fear, right?
Right. Yeah.
Because a lot of people are like, I'm not going to open that Pandora's box.
Absolutely.
And that's where they stay stuck in that, pushing on, and I know I've been there too. And I think so many people have, because again, that's what, when you're talking about unhooking from those programs, right?
Yeah.
And then you also mentioned something else too that I thought was really a great point of wisdom about the timing. And, now we have, the law of instantaneous manifestation. And at the same time, this is where the universe is being kind to us. It really does have our back, because in order to be in full alignment with that law of instantaneous manifestation, we're all, as you said, it's an ongoing journey, right?
Yeah.
To really, to kind of clear out the dust bunnies, if you
Yeah.
will.
Great way of saying that.
and uh, and to begin to, just take that heavy coat off. I know that's what it felt like for me for years. It's like, and when you layer up for the season and it's like, okay, there's
Yeah,
another layer, you peel it all off,
yeah,
drop a little lighter. And it really does start with that first act of showing up for ourselves with
yeah,
presence, with sincerity, and with love. And
yeah.
so, I'm really curious how you would answer this question, about what the hidden source of stress is, because I know you have a very interesting answer to that, and and
Yeah,
also just how life has also revealed that to you. I know I keep coming back to that because you've had
yeah.
such rich life experiences.
Great question. Yes. Oh my goodness. Yeah. You know what? I think for me, I found that when I turned 40, that I had, all the beautiful things that I wanted. And yet on the inside, I knew something was not quite in alignment.
Mhm.
And that choice to leave that chapter of my life, it definitely gave me the space to go within. Um, and when I started my journey to becoming an entrepreneur, I was trained in tools and modalities that support the unconscious unwinding. So I hypnotherapy, timeline therapy, and so I had done a lot of the inner unwinding in terms of the unconscious, and so that in itself opened my mind to connecting to higher frequencies. It's like your unconscious is the doorway to our divine mind. And so when I went through this very, very dark night of the soul, I was peeling away all the things that I thought were security and yet were causing me stress. So it was like, what an interesting space to be in. And so it was really in that unwinding. And it was kind of like, I feel like when my mom passed, it was almost like my spirit was like, well, we're gonna speed you up on this. We really want you to get this. We really want you to understand that the greatest source of your stress is your attachment to all of these three-dimensional people, places, things. And so my life then, when my mom passed away, I feel like I went through a lot. I'll be honest, it was a lot of fear. It was, I feel like it wasn't just my fear. I feel like I really was clearing for my entire family lineage, to get to really embodying the mystical, spiritual beings that we all are. And that was very much rejected in my family. So when I started, I was the black sheep of my family. And so as after my mom passed, it was like all of that perceived fear that, oh my gosh, how am I going to survive now? And these are like deep, deep unconscious attachments to sort of that reality. And it really was in the surrender. I know that's just a word.
Oh, and I'm so glad and at the same time, I want to say and not but, and you paved it so beautifully because really, just to jump in for a quick sec,
Yeah.
I love how you built up to the surrender because I don't I could really feel how when you were so honest and so transparent with us when you said you were in so much fear. You didn't sugarcoat it. You
Yeah.
were because we all pass through that,
Yeah.
and it's that like you said, it's that attachment, uh, the gripping, the clinging,
Yeah.
the fear that is attached to the not wanting to let go, and yet it's when you take that leap of faith and you're able to sometimes it's one finger at a time
Yeah.
because we can get really hooked in, and yet that's such a beautiful actually way of illustrating surrender.
Thank you. And if I can just be even even more honest, I'll just share the
Thank you.
actual moment because I feel like there may be people who maybe have already experienced this or are calling this in for themselves. So, I had access to so many tools. And it was that point, though, where I was like, why isn't this going away? Because I was still attached to something that really wanted to let go. And so I had a moment where I was supposed to go into the city and my brakes failed on my car. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't leave. I've got to, stay at home. But I started to feel all this panic. And I was like, why is this happening? And truthfully, the not being able to leave my home is what got me into this like uber surrender moment. And it was where I said, like, what am I doing here? Like, why won't this go away? And it was where I heard a voice that said, we're going to make this loud until you know we're here.
Oh,
And
wow.
that was my moment in my journey. And I will tell you, all that fear just like that, it was just gone. It was like I pierced the veil of the illusions that I was holding on so dearly to. And that really began the deeper integration of really reclaiming my feminine once again.
Oh, that's incredible. And in that moment, the fact that you made that conscious choice, and this is what I really want to sort of highlight here for anyone listening right now, is that conscious choice to call in the divine.
Yeah.
That those are the choice points that are so simple and yet so profound in all of our lives, is to just open up a crack of a possibility for the divine to flow in and infuse us with illumination, with insight, with that cosmic aha moment.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we begin to start to expand beyond all the fear. It's wow. I love that thank you for sharing that moment so
You're
clearly.
welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, it's a moment that I will never forget. And it was such a profound moment of also opening myself back up to learning to really trust my intuition. And like prior to that, I was definitely on that path. And I really feel like what happens though to people when they start their spiritual journey is we consume all this knowledge, and so it's like we're building our divine knowledge, cup. And then there comes this point where it's like, are we actually practicing it and
Yeah.
having the faith in the divine and the divine plan? And it's like that. I truly believe that this is why we call in these moments of what I would have called chaos and
Hmm.
uncertainty, to really give me the opportunity to make that choice point and literally pierce the veil of what I call now the illusion.
Oh, I love how you just shared that. Yes, it's living it, right? And
Yeah.
and I know because I remember during one of my moves, I had more books than anything else. I had like 3 bookshelves full of books, and I was like,
Me
"Interesting,
too.
huh?" Things that make you go, "Hmm," you know?
Totally.
And and yet my life was a hot mess at that point.
Yes. Me
So, and I think too, it's like what you shared earlier in your journey when, you had everything that you could have wanted out there in the material world.
Yeah.
And then yet deep down inside you knew that there was something more. And I just want to highlight that too, because I feel like a lot of the sort of the stress circles that people can get sort of spun around in is
Hmm.
chasing, looking for love, as they say, in all the wrong places, and chasing the shiny, bright, shiny objects
Yeah.
in a lateral way. And something that just came through right now, if you don't mind me sharing, because you
Absolutely.
inspired
Yeah.
it in me, is that, this restoration of the divine feminine. And we were talking about this too in my Luminous Lightworker Facebook group. So this
Yeah.
conversation is spilling over into today, is that sort of vertical, accessing the divine vertically, right? And the sort of outer manifesting is that the ideally the divine masculine. And yet, because things have been, because of a patriarchal system, we've been so out of balance for like 6,000 years, not just
Yeah.
a few
That's a
years,
long time.
just a little. blip of time. Well, I guess in the larger scheme of things, it is a blip of time, but if it's been a long time, right? and and so with all of that, you know, sort of distorted energy, masculine energy,
Mm,
it makes sense that our programming is to look for all the things out there. It's almost like an initiation in a way of Earth
yeah,
School
totally.
until we're able to begin to feel into that moment where there's something more. There's something
Mm,
more in
mm,
it. And because we can't kind of identify it in a concrete way,
yeah.
we get a little, we that's can be a point of confusion, another point of a source of stress.
Yes.
And what I love that you've shared is that underneath it is that seeking, not just seeking, but reconnecting with the
Mm.
divine. The divine's always been there. We don't need to really seek it. It's in our face.
Right?
And yet
Yeah.
we're, talk about truth in plain sight. It's just
Yeah.
the veil is there, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Beautiful. So,
well, I'm just, I know you've been talking about this, but I want to sort of just see what else you'd like to share on this topic about how your
mhm.
life has transformed since you have um, gone restored the sacred to your self-care, really gone back into that deeper connection with your sacred feminine, your divine feminine, and what that's been like for you now that you're here now and having a totally different experience of what it's like to be in the world.
Great question. I would say that the greatest one is trusting myself. And that has really opened up my intuition to another level where I'm now receiving more. And definitely a lot of heart healing where I'm now able to a lot more quickly move into my heart space, even the things that, I still have human experiences and feel really triggered on. That's been huge. And just that underlying sense of peace where when we pierce the veil and when we truly realize that the only thing that keeps us in fear is not believing and having the active faith in really in the light and in the divine, it's like that in itself is it's life changing. um it is life changing because I truly believe that when we allow ourselves to move into that energy of really going within and being open to the receiving and recognizing that it's not for instance, the old me would always search externally to make her life happen, which I expended a lot of energy. It created a lot of stress. And yet the answer was actually for me to go within and to get the divine download and the path forward, which I will be honest did not look the way I thought it would. And that's right, that's a quality of our divine self. It has the highest timeline for us. Our lower ego self wants to like control and hold on to things that we think it should look a certain way. And even like that in itself has totally changed my life, where I thought I wanted to have a really traditional life, and I'm in a space now where I'm like, well, like whatever's in my highest good, it's all good. Yeah, it's all good.
And it's interesting too because you mentioned as well too about the lower ego mind and how we I call it the psychic splits, right? Because
I like that.
because when we're awakening, there's this awakening part of us, and then there's this part that we're awakening, and there are all these sort of aspects of self that need to get on board,
Yeah,
and I know in my own journey that resistance, right? Which is another form of fear, which is the lower ego mind, and that desire to control things or make
yeah,
plans and know what to expect and everything like that. And that's where it's that yes but energy, where here's we're awakening and developing an awareness of our soul energy and what it feels like, and it's showing us this beautiful timeline. And then our ego self is going, but yes, I want this, but
Yeah, totally.
and so I call it the psychic splits, because there comes a point in the awakening journey, and and this is what you've been speaking to, where it just you can't stretch any further. You have to make a choice. You have to jump.
Yeah.
And that's the faith. And I love how you described it also as active faith.
Yes, actively choosing these higher vibrations instead of staying in that realm of fear. And, the one thing that I do see where life can get challenging for people is where we want the higher timeline. We have this real true desire, and yet there are, like, it to me it's the control piece. Like we want to control exactly how life works, and yet that's actually part of why nothing is shifting.
Hmm.
So it really comes back to that word, right? Surrender.
Yes.
Surrendering that you are protected. You are going to, create whatever it is that is in your highest good to create, and that aligns with more of your, I call it like our feminine essence and our soul imprint. And it's okay that things are messy. And if there's anything I could say, it's know that if you're in the middle of the mess and you're in the chaos, that's actually a sign that you're headed in the right direction.
Oh, I love
Where,
that.
yeah, where there's something that you're unearthing, and like we go through these cycles of life, and that even in itself, is something that I really hadn't realized, where we go through these death and rebirth cycles, and like, hey, we're in an accelerated ascension, so we're going through them rapidly. So we also need to give ourselves grace and kindness and the
Yes.
self-love, and to also understand that your ego will only tell yourself you're failing, yet your soul is like, go, go. We want you to move through this. Like, we want to
Yes.
pull your life apart so we can help you reform it.
Yes. Yeah, it's like an opening, a huge opening, if we'll just allow
Yes.
it. And it's interesting because birthing is, there's contractions, right? To push you out. Right? And there can be complications and all this kind of stuff. And it's like this is happening both for every one of us, in the world, on a personal level, on a micro level, and then on a macrocosmic level, right?
Yeah.
The collective, and so this is where keeping our eyes on the divine at all times is
Yeah.
so key. And this is where, even as you're speaking, what's just I'm feeling guided to share right now on behalf of everyone is, and it's just a beautiful affirmation and reminder for myself too, and is that, when I this concept of sacred self-care, I think how it differs also too from conventional self-care is, it is like you're saying with active faith, it is a moment by moment active practice. It's a way of living. It's not just something where you do your 9 to 5 job and then, oh, I'm going to go and meditate for half an hour. And I'm not knocking meditation, because meditation is wonderful. And anything that we do to take care of ourselves is a step in the right direction,
Yeah.
in a healthy way. It's just this kind of compartmentalization or separation. Like, now I'm going to have my spiritual time, and then I'm going to have my this time. It's about
Yeah.
integrating it. It's
Yes.
about shifting how we live our lives,
Yeah.
and we don't have to go 0 to 60. It's just beginning to notice, in those moments when we have taken choices. Um, Feeling, for me, I know everyone's a little different in this way. Some people see, some people here, but it's, for me, it's been a felt sense of sensing, and it's an ever refining journey. Like, when is it my soul energy, and when is it some other energy in me, like my ego,
Mm-hmm.
or fear, or something else
Yeah.
disguising itself very cleverly, as a
Yeah.
live fox. Someone
Yes.
described it as
Yes.
once.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's I believe part of the faith, the building in the faith, and choosing the divine over the fear path is truly understanding the discernment. And if I can share, one last thing, it's when I started my journey, I heard things and I ignored them. When I started my journey, I felt things and I ignored them. And as I went through and I went through this process of discernment and integration, now when I feel something, oh, I feel it. That like it is a very deep feeling within. It is, so it's like that's what we're all heading towards, is this
Mhm.
embodiment of
Mhm.
our divine spirit.
It's so true, and that's so beautifully said because it's that, yes, it's that sacred embodiment. What a beautiful note to begin
Yeah.
to wrap up on, because the divine, we are divine. We are,
Yeah.
the divine in human form,
Yeah.
and to really anchor that in is that sacred embodiment, is to really know it in every fiber of our being beyond a shadow of a doubt, and
Hmm.
to live it and breathe it in every moment. And in doing so, we hold this frequency of light and love and compassion and divine creativity that holds the frequency, and strengthens it, not just on our own personal journeys but for the collective. And that idea of the more people who are awakening and honoring it through this kind of self-care, this kind of sacred self-care, this way of living, as you've been demonstrating and living so beautifully yourself, modeling. Thank you so much, and sharing that, all of your story and your journey so far with us. And it's just beautiful to witness, you know, how your expansion has unfolded, and just in what you've shared. And also, I've known you for a while now too, and so it's just
Yeah.
an honor and a pleasure. Thank you so much. And if anyone would like to get in touch with you or reach out to you, and learn more about how you serve and work with people, I know we've included underneath this interview today information for how they can get in touch with you. And before we close, is there any last closing remark you'd like to make? We're in this time with the equinox energies, the afterglow
Yes.
equinox of perfect balance. So, you have a message for the collective right now on that?
Yeah, you know what, as a final word, I would say, if you are really struggling, just know that you're being led to something new that wants to form. So it's like, if you feel like your life is falling apart in some ways, there for me personally, it was falling apart on purpose. And so just know that, give yourself the gift of choosing the faith and make that the biggest part of your reality, because I promise you that will get you there faster.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. Oh my gosh, those are such words of wisdom. Thank you. We all need to hear that. I believe
Yeah.
at moments where we can lose sight of the power of what you just shared. So
Yeah.
thank you for affirming that
Yeah.
for all of us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been wonderful.
Wow. Wishing everyone much creativity, infinite creative blessings, divine love and light. And we'll see you back here again next week for another show of Chakra Care for the Creative Soul.